Amazing.
Yeah, so we went. We were we took some time and got to just chill, man. It was pretty dope, man. We needed a week off. We bought tickets like Friday night or no Saturday. That it sucked because like I had buried my friend that Friday, a good drummer of ours, Kahari Parker, talented, 46, man, had a heart attack in his sleep.
Holy fuck.
We buried him. His services was Friday. And I just been a wreck, man. And so we were like Saturday, we bought these tickets and we were like, we just need to get out of town. And I'm like, but then we were both like COVID and we're just like, are we being irresponsible? The whole thing. And so I canceled the tickets. And then Sunday after hanging out with my kid, I was like, we need to go. So I bought the tickets again, use the credits. And we stayed at the Montage, which is like this high-end resort, like right off literally, like you get into Laguna Beach, and Laguna's big money, So we went through Turo, where you can rent people's cars.
Right.
So I wanted a luxury car, man. So we rented a Porsche Panamera, and which was dope because I've never driven a Porsche, and I was like, this is great. And we got to the spot, man, and just really enjoyed just being there, man. It was social distancing was fine. I got up pretty much every morning around 6, went down to the beach and played, did my meditation, trumpet, drone thing, kind of some of the stuff I'm going to talk about today, and created a lot of music because I'm going in the studio in a couple of weeks. So I've got tons of material to record, but I've got new stuff too I want to put together. So, I wrote maybe about 3 or 4 different melodies while I was out there. So I'm like itching to get jumping on it this week. Yeah, man, and probably drank a little too much. Hung out with my little brother for a day or so and saw my nephew and one of my good friends, Alex Wasili, great trombone player. He plays with Dumpster Funk.
Yeah.
And he's been in LA now almost a year. But yeah, it was just a needed vacation, man, And as soon as I got back, it was like, all right, I had to teach a class this morning about entrepreneurship to my fellows in my school. And then I got you, and then I have like a kind of a gout flare up in my foot, uric acid buildup.
Yeah.
Too much drinking. I know it's what it is. So my body's trying to flush it out. And it was like I got maybe an hour and a half, 2 hours of sleep last night. I was just in so much pain. So I woke up this morning like, okay, I got to do this thing. And then I got to do this other thing. I was like, oh my God.
Hilarious.
So, but that's what it is, man. It was great, man. I've got, did my warm up. Thank you for the thing here. I've been checking this out, doing my mouthpiece buzzing and stuff, man. So
sweet, man.
Yeah. How's your back, man?
It's getting better, man. I saw the chiropractor.
Good.
Been doing lots of like stretching and yeah, it's feeling a lot better, man. My whole body's just feeling broken, man. I lasted like I lasted like 18 hours.
Wow.
This job, and man, probably had like 30, 40 more hours to go, and I was just like, my body was just like, no fucking way. It's like, nah, you're done doing fucking renovation shit. Like,
yeah, it's a tough, man. This is like it's such a weird, especially here in the States, man. The States are the only place right now that's like can't get their asses together. I mean, that's usually the case, man, but it's like we're really, really fucking up. And, it's like, we got racial issues that are going on that are, a hell of a climate on top of the pandemic itself. And schools are making decisions to like, well, we need to go back. And I'm like, no, we don't. There is no reason why why are you going to risk a teacher's life to educate your kid? You know, it don't make no sense, man. It just.
Dude, if I had kids, there's no way in hell they'd be going back to school.
Bro, my kid their school is talking about going back. My school is supposed to have an answer pretty soon, but I've already kind of made my mind up. Like, you know, if they can't get it together, you know, I'll figure it out.
Man, I read this shit about the states and them wanting schools are going back in September, and I'm just like, this is fucked. Yeah. Like, the government just does not care about people.
No, they don't. That's what it boils down to, man. Folks it's about money, you know, and greed. I mean, case in point, we had a Ohio Republican representative just got pinched by the feds today or on Tuesday. He had taken a $60 million bribe, him and 4 of his other cronies. So I'm just like, you know, it's not about everybody. It's about, you know, everybody and themselves, you know what I'm saying? Unfortunately.
And this shit, what the fuck is going on in Portland, yo?
Oh, yeah. Well,
is this shit about to fucking go down everywhere in the United States? Like, what the fuck is this? Like, all these fucking people, yo.
Chicago's crazy right now, though, bro. We on the south side of Chicago the other day, there were 14 people shot. We've had 70 shootings over the weekend.
What?
Yeah. And yeah, right. It's like worse than the Middle East, you know, Iraq war, bro. It's like they had there was a funeral that happened, you know, and it's, you know, somebody came by and just lit up everybody who was outside. 14 people, man. I'm like, this is it to me. And so the things that's happening up in Portland right now are going to happen at some point in Chicago and other major cities. You know, when you talk about a police state, you know, a lot of people don't want to talk about, they think it's a conspiracy theory when you talk about New World Order, you know, and the police state here in the States, but it's coming. You know, when you're talking, you know, you're talking about if anybody's going to do it, it's going to be the orange dude in the office right now who's just going to say, you know, the hell with the Constitution, the hell with your rights and everything else. I'm going to do what I'm going to do. And that type of mentality is just, it's damaging, you know.
You think he's going to win again?
You know, man, I'm keeping my head down. I know that sounds messed up, but I'm really focused on enjoying my life. This time hanging with you and the community is important to me. Taking a vacation is important to me. Hanging out with my daughter is important to me. Spending time with my woman is important to me. You know, like I can't wrap myself. I pay attention to what's going on because I think that's, you know, being a concerned and responsible citizen. But I'm not going to lose sleep over these guys, you know, kicking rocks in the sand and shit and battling it out over some dumb stuff. Like, you know, it's just, I don't have patience for that. Because, you know, at the end of the day, if he doesn't win, we get another asshole in office, Joe Biden. Joe don't care about, first off, black people. And, you know, it's one, you know, it's the lesser of two evils, man. I've told many people, it's like, you know, which bully do you want? You want a Joe Biden bully, or do you want the Donald Trump bully? You know, that's where we're at, you know. And so,
you know, how much you think Trump's paying fucking Kanye right now?
Kanye's having an episode, bro. He's a bipolar individual who is
fuck that fucking dude up. He is on a fucking trip, bro.
He's screaming for help, bro. He's been screaming for help even in his lyrics, man. He's never been right after his mom passed away. His mom was like his balance. And the family, which is his family, the Kardashians, are not they're not being his family, you know, the way he needs it, unfortunately. And so he's crying out. I believe the man is crying out. It's funny, you know, he made that statement. He's like, well, Harriet Tubman didn't really free the slaves. She just had them go work for other white people. And what's funny about that statement is that it's like that was a dumb statement, but at the same time, when you think about it, there was even when black folks were free back then, they still weren't truly part of the system for them. You know what I mean? The system wasn't designed for them to advance and really be free. So part of the statement is actually kind of true. You know what I mean? Like we didn't have any political offices. We weren't, we didn't own any bank. You know what I mean? It's like it wasn't happening like that then. Not right away. So part is, if you want to read into the statement, but at the same time, I think dude is having a meltdown. He's really having a meltdown. So.
Man, you got any questions about how this is gonna kind of go down?
Yeah. So what? You walk me through, bro. Like, huh?
So basically what will happen is all there's one person in the waiting room right now.
Okay.
I'll let them in. They can hang a bit before we go live, and then I'll make the link to the Facebook group, which takes about a minute. I'll make sure it's linked, and then I'll pin it to the top, and do a brief little intro, and then it's all you, man.
Okay.
Yeah.
Nice. What are we going to talk about?
No idea.
What are we going to talk about?
There's someone here waiting to get in here. I'm going to let them in. Jackie, I don't know who this is. Let's see.
You guys should also check out. There's still somewhat of a delay, but it's difficult because folks, at least when they get in on the Zoom, they're able to actually be there and ask questions and whatnot. But I use StreamYard to go live, and it doesn't hook up to Zoom, which is a problem, but it connects to your Facebook, your YouTube, and shoots live from there as well.
Oh, really?
Yeah. We can talk about it after this, so you can at least have another platform. So as you run in Zoom, you can also run this to your YouTube channel.
Yeah, we're still trying to work out all the stuff with this, like the streaming thing. It's
right.
And before we just used to do them where people go live in the Facebook group, and then we did a bunch of those, and then it felt like it was kind of awkward for the people presenting. It's hard to just talk to the camera for an hour straight.
Man, it is. Trust me. I just spoke for an hour and a half straight to my alums, man, about entrepreneurship and vision boards. So I'm just for an hour and a half. I'm like, I had to break it up with a couple of videos and a couple of breakout rooms for us to have some conversation. But yeah, it's difficult. Yeah. It's difficult to just straight up talk about, what you're trying to do.
Yo, what's up, Jackie? I don't guess
okay.
Nothing's up.
Hi, Jackie.
Yeah, Jackie, we're gonna get started in a few minutes here. I'm just gonna I will link the live stream to the Facebook group, and we'll get started in a few minutes.
Cool, man.
So we try and keep these around an hour. Some people go a bit longer, some a bit shorter. Totally up to you, man.
Yeah.
Whatever you're feeling. I'll monitor the stream in the Facebook group and get any questions to you from there. And
I'm open, and I'm definitely open for it. I hope people, do ask some questions, because it's important to, get some insight. It's been great watching, just watching this format. It's I'm talking, when we had breakfast when you were in town, it was just like you guys were just starting. You're like, man, we hit this number and we hit this number. I'm like, man, you guys are going to kill this thing. It's going to be great. And it's been cool seeing so many great. I didn't catch my man the other day with the double C in 10 minutes or something like that. I was like, I wanted to watch it. I just didn't have enough time.
Yeah, it was good, man. Really great, man. Ryan had a lot of great info, man. Ryan's a great lead player, man.
Man, dude, I'm like, I've fallen off the track of. I can play lead if I need to. I've just fallen off the track of being like, I want to have those double C's, man. I have an A and I'm comfortable with it. You know, when I need it, it's there. But all in all, man, it's been great. Just you know, I saw Curtis's Taylor. That was beautiful. Chris Johnson, of course, is like, to me, Chris is getting to play with him with Basie and watching how his mind thinks and watching him warm up has always been a treat for me, because I'm like, bro, you got it. And he considers himself to be more of a composer than he is a trumpet player. And I'm like, you got it, man. He's probably one of the best, to me, I think one of the best well-rounded educators out here you know, doing this thing. It's a beautiful thing, because he's got the whole run too of like Finale chops, Logic Pro, and Pro. I mean, he's just got it all, man. I'm like, dude.
Yeah, man, I've been loving his office hours program, man. It's so great.
Yeah, great. Just a lot of great information, man. And who's the other trumpet, the female trumpet player from? She's part of the, I guess, part of an admin on here as well. She's from.
Armida.
Yeah, man, she's got really nice sound too. So,
man, Armida sounds great, man.
Dude,
she sounds so great.
Yep.
And yeah, really great person too. Cool, man. Well, I'm gonna link this to the group. If you want to if everyone can just mute, shall I just mute you? Cool. So I will link this to the group, and we will get started here. Got to remember to hit record. Resume recording. There we go. Okay, just give me a minute.
And this is truly a warm-up too, man. I think I've played maybe 3 or 4 notes already today.
Yo, what's up, everybody? We're going to get started in a few minutes here. Just going to make sure the stream is linked and get it pinned to the top of the page.
Nice.
Yo, what's up, everybody? Thank you so much for tuning in to Warm Up Wednesday. Super excited for today. Just a few things before we get started. If you're joining us for the first time, we have a website, positivetrumpetersworldwide.com. On the website, on the main page of the website, there is a spot to sign up for our mailing list. We send out an email once a week with all the info for the live streams that we do. So if you want to stay up to date, highly recommend getting on our mailing list. Send out an email once a week. As well, in the email, we send out Zoom links. All of our live streams happen on Zoom, and we send the Zoom links out in the email. Also on the website, we have a bunch of free PDFs that you can download. There's a bunch of PDFs there that go with a lot of the live streams in the group. Also in the group, we get a lot of questions about, can we check out the live streams after they happen? Yes, you can absolutely check out the live streams after they happen. They're all saved in our Facebook group. If you go to the top of the page, you'll find a section called, let me look it up here. It's called Topics. There's also another section called Popular Topics, and then you can scroll down, select Live Stream or Warm Up Wednesday. So far, we've done roughly about 50 live streams. It's crazy, 50 live streams. And they're all there for you to check out. It's got to be like 50, 60 hours worth of content. It's crazy. Just going to let a couple other people into the chat here. So our guest today for Warm Up Wednesday, super stoked. Our guest today is Marquise Carroll. Marcus played. Sorry, bro. Marcus played in the Basie band for a few years. Marcus is a great trumpeter, great educator. He's played with Winton, played with Peyton. He's played with everybody. So without further ado, I'm going to pass it over to Marcus.
What's up, Troy? Yeah, that's funny. I always give Marquise Hill is a good friend, man, and we always get those names mixed up. But thanks, man. I appreciate you guys having me on here today. When you asked me about doing this, I was kind of hesitant because I'm like, what else can I show anybody that it seems like everybody does pretty much the same thing. We just all have a different concept about how we approach playing the horn. And if we all played the same, it would be, in my opinion, kind of boring. Everybody's got uses different equipment. Everybody has a different sound when they play. Everybody has a different approach to how they interpret music. So, when I was thinking about that, the conversation, I was like, man, I've gotten into this very meditative, holistic way of playing music and how I approach warming up and warming down. But also, I want to talk about longevity because I've gone through I've played for 34 years, which is a third of the 2/3 of my life. It's a long time to be married to this thing. And the thing is that I've gone through some pretty, I don't want to call them horrific, but they were pretty challenging injuries, lip injuries. So kind of want to talk about what that means as far as longevity. So, man, for me, the biggest thing that I got a chance to grow up and play with Clark Terry a little bit. Clark Terry was a good friend of my grandfather's. I always tell folks that because it was like one of those things where I'm like, man, I didn't know who he was when I was younger. And as I got older, I was like, oh, I was sitting around greatness. But the players that I studied from, like Jim Bobinet, who's now at, I think, Iowa State, Susan Slaughter, who was also principal with the St. Louis Symphony. I studied with Dan Pressgrave, also out of St. Louis. That's where I'm from originally. All these players. Then I got to Chicago and studied at DePaul with Matt Lee, who's a great trumpet player, and Bob Lark as well. And then along the way, I've known Winton since I was 11. So I've learned a lot. But for me, it's about sound. It's I'm big on sound. My grandfather was a trumpet player, and he made me play long tones outside. So I'm gonna tell you the problem with that is that I learned to play with a lot of air, and with that though, I'll give you kind of an example. It's like my first introduction to the trumpet was playing this outside by going like just trying to play as full as possible because he was into drum and bugle chords, which I was not. I enjoyed it, but that wasn't my thing. So as I started to practice the horn and learn all the mechanics of everything, it wasn't until I started teaching a lot when I started realizing I need to know what I'm doing. I think I can naturally play, but like when you have to explain it to somebody who might have a lip problem, or they have the teeth are too close together, or they play too far on the bottom lip, or they play off to the side, there's all these different things. I started developing a small book of ideas. And it's funny because all these ideas, I come across them in Schlossberg, I come across them in Chikowitz, I come across them in Caruso and Maggio and the Jacoby method. And I'm a stamps guy. So that's, I spent a lot of my time working on getting a foundation early in the morning with warming up. I don't believe in warming up for, more than a half an hour. I don't believe in warming down longer than 10, 15 minutes. If you are playing the horn and it takes you an hour to warm up, there's a problem because you could potentially be going to it when gigs were around. You could potentially be heading to a gig running late, and what are you going to do? You got to hit in 10 minutes. You don't have that hour, so, so for me, I've come up with a warm up, like as a foundation daily routine. And the reason why I came up with it, like I said, I split my lip in college. I had a horizontal split, and it felt like a paper cut. I could not actually hold a buzz. And I laid off the trumpet for 3 months, came back, thought I had it, realized that it wasn't all there again, split it again. And then I realized I'm doing something completely wrong. And I had been playing for a long time. I started hanging with Brent Turney, great trumpet player. You should know who he is, man. Great, great trumpet player. But he got me working on basically buzzing, really getting back into the fundamentals of free buzzing, mouthpiece buzzing, and learning how to roll the lips together. So I think about these three things when I'm playing, especially as I'm warming up. My day, when I'm talking about holistic and meditation, I actually meditate anywhere from 25 to 90 minutes before my day even begins. I'm up early at the crack of dawn. It's my thing. I like to get my body centered and my mind centered, so I'm relaxed going into my day, but also when I go into playing, because when we play this thing, it's real easy to want to muscle it. It's real easy to want to muscle, especially as we go up top. There's a lot of trumpet players, they want to play high notes, and it's like, I'm the high note guy, and it's like you see them, they crunch down. I've had to learn how to relax to be able to play with that fluidity through and through, whether I'm playing lead, first, second, third, fourth trumpet, doesn't matter. So a lot of the things that I do, I apply meditation into everything that I do in my warm-up, from focus of letting go to posture, breathing, my intentions mentally, and also visioning what my practice is going to be like. There's a lot of, the mind is so much stronger. Kenny Werner's book, Effortless Mastery, is a great read, because he even talks a lot about that too, in regards to being able to kind of see what, visioning what you want the end result to be. Doesn't mean you need an hour to practice. You can actually get more done in 10 to 15 minutes of focus, as opposed to just an hour of kind of farting around on the horn. So the things that I think about, what I had to do was I had to learn how to kind of restructure my embouchure. So I came up with the what I call the 3 Fs. I had to think about making sure I had the firm corners and my flat chin, and then I was moving my wind fast, okay? A lot of people talk about air. I changed up my mindset about what air is, because air is stagnant. It's around us right now. We're breathing it in and breathing it out, right? But in order to get your lips to actually move, you need to be moving that air at a very high rate of speed in order to get, to get that wind movement. So I think about wind more than I do thinking about air, right? So as my first things that I do in the beginning of the day is I'm thinking about breathing in the word how, exhaling the word who. So it's a, and the whole time that I'm doing that, all of this is nice and firm. You can kind of see that everything kind of almost frowns downward. That allows me to get the lips to kind of give more of a pucker. And I think from the mechanical standpoint of all this, the more I realize, the more lip that I have in the cup, the fatter the sound that I'm going to have. And that's what I'm looking for. I want a rich, resonant sound, as one of my teachers used to say. He's like, you got to have resonance in your sound. So I do that. I do some breathing exercises early in the morning, which I've already done. But I go through free buzzing first. And my free buzzing is just allowing me to kind of sit within the sound and making sure that the lips are actually doing what they need to do for the day. And the whole goal is just to try to get everything kind of just moving and feeling good. I like to go to the gym, or back when we could go to the gym and work out, and I apply gym workout the same way, stretching before I actually lift weights, stretching when I'm done. So it's the same thing. To me, this is like stretching. It's getting that muscle to kind of vibrate and relax itself. Some people don't like the free buzzing. I've heard yeses and nos about this. It's not the actual sound that goes in there. And for me, it's not necessarily trying to get the actual pitch, the same pitch. For me, it's about, once again, relaxing, keeping this right here flexible while this is all firm. So when I now apply, then I have that fat sound that I'm looking for. I don't want a thin sound. I don't want the lips to spread out this way and smile. It's the same as a drum head. If the drum head is stretched too much, and as soon as you pop it, it's going to do what? Snap. You crack the drum head, you got to change it. That's what's going to happen here. If you're stretched too thin as you're applying any slight pressure, you're looking at injury. And so I had to learn how to get everything moving kind of this way and forward. Okay. And so my goal is to get seamless wind flow through that, making sure that there's no kind of pivot in, like it sounds like I'm, chopping up the note or the phrase. And part of that visioning, as I talked about, is that I'm thinking about making actual music. I'm thinking about what's coming out the horn. Out of the mouthpiece and eventually the horn. So my goal is to kind of do a lot of sirens. Okay. And the learning to also incorporate that tongue as I'm playing on this mouthpiece is also a part of my warm up, making sure it's, I'm thinking about whistling, right? My concept is, and I'm sure it's like with most, I would imagine is that as I'm going upward, the tongue kind of raises a bit. As I go down, the cavity opens up a bit. So when I whistle, as I've taught a lot of students, I ask them if they can whistle. Well, most students say, yeah, they can. And I say, so what happens when you whistle? Is your lip actually changing the pitch? No, your tongue inside is actually altering how the wind is moving out. So if that's the concept, this is nothing but an amplifier, the trumpet itself, right? It's like, here's the guitar, here's the chord, you put it together to the amplification, right? So if your tongue is actually doing the work on the inside, right, with flexing here and moving wind speed, then you have this. And I'm not thinking about trying to play any specific dynamic. Wherever my lips, however they're responding that day, right? It's going to be different every day. You might have had a couple of too many beers the night before if you're an adult, and you might feel a little dehydrated, right? You might have played 2 salsa gigs the night before and your lips are really fat, right? So everything responds differently, right? You just don't go in the gym and start lifting weights. You got to gauge where your body's at. So for me, the free buzzing and the actual mouthpiece buzzing is what helps me gauge how my wind is moving, which should be relaxed because I've already meditated and I've got that centered. But also right here, how flexible am I? Am I forcing things to come out, right? So you got any questions?
Marcus, so I can just jump in for 1 second.
Yeah, man, go ahead.
So there's a question come in from Josh Green. Is your aperture the same when you play / buzz on the mouthpiece versus when you free buzz?
No, to me it's not. All right, and this is why I think a lot of people. This is great, man. It's such a great question. I think a lot of people downplay the free buzz because they're going to say, man, that aperture is not the same, so it defeats the purpose of actually doing the buzzing onto the mouthpiece. I believe that when I'm buzzing right here, this aperture is a little smaller. It comes together because as soon as you allow lip to get into the cup, right, your lips kind of spread a little bit because they're kind of nestled in there. And for me, I want that aperture to be a little bit bigger when I'm going in there anyway, because I want to get a lot of wind going through. I want to get a lot of vibration on that top lip. One thing, to make sure I'm even, I kind of put the finger here, something I learned from a teacher a long time ago, seeing if everything's rolled right, seeing if I can get that together. You can see this, there's a triangle, right? The same as when you play, there's a triangle. So you got these 2 triangles kind of sitting on top of one another. This aperture right here is going to be just a little tighter, but as soon as you let it go into that cup, you got this fat sound. And that's been my process of playing and teaching. It seemed like it's worked. I mean, I've got tons of students that are out here kicking my butt right now. So, so I do that, man. And then I've been a huge fan of stamps. That's what I grew up playing. I didn't know about Chickowitz flow studies until I got to college. I was like, what is this? And I thought it was great. I think every last one of these types of studies is talking about wind. That's all it is. And phrasing. The biggest thing is wind and phrasing. So my long tone, and I think Curtis Taylor talked about this, even Chris talked about it, is the expanded, and there's so many different names for this thing, but I tend to stay on G. G is to me, it's the most comfortable note. It is a starting point for me every day to go. Where I focus on different dynamic control. And I only do it for a couple of minutes. I'm gauging how strong is my aperture. Am I able to open up so I can get a little louder? Am I able to bring it back down so I can play softer, right? Are the corners staying locked and firm? Because that's what I want. If we talked about core here in the abdomen area, here's your core here in the embouchure, So as I do that, though, my expansion of wind control and tongue now applies. I'm applying everything I've done, free buzz, mouthpiece, now into the horn. So I have a right? And for me, I call that the accordion G or something like that. I don't even really have a name. I'm sure there's another name for it. But I'm literally going from G half step and just expanding until I'm G above the staff to pedal G. That is, can I play above that? Yes, but for me, warming up, playing a bunch of high notes is not how I like to warm up. That'll be like going into the gym and trying to squat 45s on each side. Doesn't make sense. You cannot. That's not effective trumpet playing, and I've done that before in my career, and that's what caused a lot of injury. So, going into the long tone aspect of things, and I've written my own long tones that I tend to work on that also incorporate arpeggios, which is really important. The concept of slimming down my warm up is that, and I've got a little sheet that I'm actually reading off of here, Troy. So bear with me. So after the mouthpiece buzzing and playing exercises and long tones, I do some slurs. I'm an irons guy, love irons, but also, once again, after a while, you get a little tired of playing the same stuff. And that's why you start buying, that Flexus book, which is a great book. I mean, there's so many, there's a lot of people writing some great stuff out here these days, But I chose to write stuff that, musically feels good to me and encompasses the kind of thing, the way that I play and still challenges me. So I'm literally going, when I get into my slurs, sorry. Trying to get those lips to wake up, and you can tell I'm like tight this morning. But I go through those types of slurs and different variations of them, going down, going up. My goal through that, once again, though, is I'm really focused on trying to make sure that wind stream is making it through that phrase. Do I use a metronome is probably another question. I know some people say make sure you use the metronome. I do use the metronome. But I'm a big fan of also that Drum Genius app, which, I'll kind of show how I work with that in my practice as well, because I like to actually feel rhythm instead of just timekeeping when I'm playing, which is really important. So I go through that. There's other expansions that I've done with that particular lip slur too, where I'm advancing myself kind of in a almost like a turn, but going upward. actually working on keeping that same kind of fluidity going across, but then jumping up with these wider intervals. And by the time you get to the end of it, trying to get in even in the lip bend towards the end to actually get the flexibility. So there's not enough for me. I don't have enough time throughout the day to just play, sit here and do lip slurs all day and sit here and do. I just don't have that kind of time. So,
hey, Marcus, we had another question. I think this kind of ties into these lip slurs.
Yep.
The question is from Sal Rosa. Do you feel air pockets on your upper and bottom lip that puffs a little bit when you go up in the register?
Say that again.
Do you feel air pockets on your upper and bottom lip that puffs a little bit when you go up in the register?
Yeah, I don't feel air pocket that they're asking about. My goal, it depends, and so this goes into depending on the type of sound I'm going for, right? When I'm playing commercial music, or in a section, or like playing in bassy section, like this thing is really rock solid for me to go. Everything is like just right where it needs to be. If I'm playing in a small group, I want more of a, when I talk about this sound, I'm looking for this kind of a sound. And people want to call that the subtone or whatever. It's just a sound for me. It's a warmer sound. I think of taking a warmer breath. And what I've noticed is it does require to manipulate to get that sound. There's a little bit of manipulation of an air pocket, so to speak, in this embouchure. I'm not saying it's the best thing to do. I look at somebody like Terrell Stafford, who plays like a beast, and he plays over here. It works for him. I try my best to keep one solid embouchure as I'm playing from bottom to top. So, an exercise that can be worked out. Where you're starting in the middle of your scale, but going down, kind of get this running start, so you keep everything firm on the way down, and everything firm also through the top and back down. That is one fluid embouchure, one fluid air wind motion as well. I hope that kind of answers that question. I don't like to play, because when you get air pockets as you're trying to get these slurs out, man, then you're muscling the horn. I don't know if I can even do it. There's a lot of head movement that happens with that, as opposed to right. If you keep everything solid with wind, I hope that answers that question. Yeah, Troy's like, yeah. So I mean, that's I go through my long tones, man. I go through my slurs. I do a lot of tonguing exercises, and I try to spend a lot more time. One of the weaknesses, and I think we all have some obstacles in our playing, but my biggest weakness is my lower register articulation. And it was evident when I joined Basie's band playing fourth trumpet, because you're down in that lower register. I'm like, man, I'm getting my butt kicked. So, I spent a lot of my time actually working in the lower register of the horn of like. Just moving further and further down till I've got that same type of articulation as I would say even in middle G. You can hear a lot more ictus or articulation on the front of the note, and the weakness is in the lower register, and I think that happens for a lot of trumpet players, maybe, where you get to that low C and beyond, and it's just your lips are a little bit further apart, the notes are farther away. As soon as you get up E and above fourth space, things get closer, so that articulation, I think, becomes a little easier. That's just my personal opinion. So I work through all of that, man, and then I work on, as far as like the technique, I do the Clark studies thing like everybody else. I do a lot of arpeggio work, but I go through all of that stuff through, the modes that I kind of play in on a regular basis. You know what I mean? Like the music that we play, that we enjoy playing, which is jazz music, when it's like you're looking at major, Dorian, dominant, maybe a Lydian dominant, diminished, of course, some form of minor, augmented, chords. So I don't like really playing out of patterns books. I like to actually make my own stuff up or use the stuff that I already have that I can, get quickly to kind of pinpoint the weaknesses. You choose. Let me see. I'll pull up actually the one I've been working on lately here. So you can do this where you want to tongue it, slur it. Where you're going through and you go up to the upper octave. Right. And then I'm doing all of that stuff through just whole steps, and then I flip back over. But I've done that. I've written out this exercise, so I'm working on minor, Dorian, the augmented mode, or whether I'm playing over the diminished, anything that's going to kind of get my head wrapped around those sounds, But like I said before, I also tend to use this stuff with, that the drum genius and drone playing, So when I was talking, when we were talking about like the actual warm up, I just told you I got back from vacation, right? So I was lucky enough to kind of be in an element of, which is great, where I'm spending a lot of time like on the actual beach and like in a serene space. It's not, I'm not in this, cave, there's nature, man. It's just like, it feels great. That's the kind of person that I am. So for me, playing along with that, that drone and also some type of drumming allows me to kind of sit in that sound and flexibility as well, but also the creative force for improvisation, which is something that I spend a lot of my time on, and having freedom. You don't want to, when you're working on improvisation, especially with this horn, it's real easy to go around sounding just like ta 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 or ti ta 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 ta, all that kind of stuff. I want freedom when I'm playing that. So let me see if I can see if we can hit this right quick. Can you hear that? Can you hear that, Troy? Cool. All right. Let's see if we can do this. So I said, I'll mute this right quick. So I get that going. I find that, whatever groove I'm trying to get into at that moment, and then staying within that drone. And my goal is to be in that tonal center, but working on my wind flow with that, flexibility with that, and also thinking about getting out the way to just allow melodies to come. This is for me, this is also a great way of creating pieces, when you get tired of actually forcing yourself to sit down to write, I record everything that I do so I can go back and say that became either an exercise to work with, or that also has become actual nucleus, like a seed to a piece, right? So I know it's, sounds kind of funny, but I mean, it's, for me, man, it's like I get to actually finally sit. I think I get bored just playing the same thing over and over and over again, So I try to find other ways that I can manipulate that warm up, or even the warm down is a little bit more specific because I'm literally trying to land a plane. So it's a lot of long tones and pedals to get down. But as I work on this type of playing, I find this to be like the best thing for me is, it's like sitting in meditation almost,
Yeah, man, I love that drum app, man, and playing with the drones. I have a question for you.
Yeah.
A lot of people talk about volume. What are your thoughts on volume? And do you warm up quiet? Some people are all about doing things really quietly. Some are about playing the full sound. What's your take on all that?
Yeah, I have a student that's like this, and he's. I'm trying to put my words together here because I'm very direct about this one. I think that to be versatile, yes, you need to warm up. I mean, even in my long tones at the beginning of the day, I'm working on movement of wind to kind of control that volume, right? But I don't set out to say I'm going to start with piano. It depends, and I'll say this: it kind of once again depends on the tiredness of the lip, or how tight it is, or how flexible it is, right? I think if I'm not getting good action on the horn when I first start playing, I tend to want to just get the sound out. So it's. And I also don't believe in. I know this might sound kind of weird, but I don't believe in pianissimo and 3Ps and 3Fs. I honestly really believe that there's three dynamics. Okay, there's piano, there's mezzo, and there's forte. But within those three dynamics, and I look at them as colors and shades. I look at it as being more vibrant, because as soon as when you visually see 2Fs and 3Fs, what happens? Can you answer that?
Yeah, you take a big breath and you a lot of times you overblow.
Right, exactly. So or if you see 2 to 3 Ps there, you tend to back off of your wind. So you've lost everything. So I always try to, my first note, I'm trying to, for me, I say wherever that note is, that's my mezzo for the day, or at least at that moment. Now from there, to me, that's a little louder than forte, or that's a little softer than piano. So I do believe that that you should be working on those things as you're warming up, just to kind of gauge where you're at. But I personally I've taught myself, and it's part of my routine, that whatever that note is of the day, that my first note is, that volume, to me, that's my mezzo. That's me not, because for me, that's not trying to play louder. That's not me trying to play softer. It's just matter of fact, it is. I mean, if I want to get louder, I can, but I'm not trying to. That to me requires me to actually exert more than the naturalness of where I want to be. Does that make sense?
Yeah, totally, man. I dig that.
Because I don't want to. Let me put it this way: the injuries that I've had to go through. So when I talk about this longevity thing, whoever's watching this, man, whoever will watch this, I don't never claim to be a great classical trumpet player. I love the music. I'm not trying to get an orchestra gig. It's not my thing. It's not what I do. But this tool, I have to know how to play the music I enjoy playing, which is jazz, blues, funk, soul, some commercial music, studio work. That's the thing that I do. So there's a little leeway, in my opinion, to, I'm not going to call it slop, but there's, a different type of sound that I go for as opposed to if I was playing this other side of the horn. Does that make sense?
Yeah, totally.
So, as we talk about this volume thing, I always want to make sure I'm just kind of right there in the middle when I'm playing. And the injuries that I suffered, which was like the split lip in college, but the recent one that I had was because I was overplaying the horn, where I literally kind of pulled this muscle on the top of the lip, and I had to learn how to. That's when I started actually meditating more. That's when I started working on more of a relaxed way of playing, so I'm not trying to muscle everything. Because as soon as I go into, like any other trumpet player that's, gunning for it, it's like you either overshoot or you can mess yourself up physically. The other thing that I think young players should pay attention to is that when you're, as your career is developing, make sure you have some type of routine to get in and a routine to get out. And one thing I did not do for years was, like, I would just show up to the gig, play my gig, collect my check, and be gone, right? Or go hang, or, after playing a 3 or 4 hour jazz gig, still sitting there jamming. You know what I mean? It's just like, I see why Freddie messed his lips up. You know what I mean? Like, you've got to make sure that you are doing something to stretch this out, and to also stretch it out at the end from the work that you're doing. It's a physical thing,
Yeah, I dig that, man. You touched on your lip injury. Can you maybe talk about some of the things that you did to recover from that?
Yeah. I contacted Brad Good.
That is awesome. I love Brad.
Brad's a great guy. I knew he had hung with Dr. McGrill. So I contacted Dr. McGrill. And he was like, and they're funny because they're like, you should get to playing, but you got to be careful how you play. And I was just like, I was too afraid to actually play. So the pull of the muscle up here was from, and also I'll go into a little bit more detail about this other thing, but that pull was starting to bruise every time I played. I couldn't hold a note. My endurance was low. When I say quite frustrating, it was right when I got the call to go out with Basie. Let's put it that way. All right. So I was like, do I take the gig or not? So I spent 2 months every day. I didn't touch the horn for the first month. All I did was mouthpiece and free buzzing and McGrill's exercises, and also work with the Pete, which I think is a wonderful thing of centering, trying to get this muscle here, to do what it needs to do to get that aperture. I didn't have any muscle controllers, so I had to do those exercises to kind of rebuild the muscle around the face, right? When I got back to when I actually put the horn to the face, it was literally like, okay, let me do all the simple stuff. I went into the Getchell book. I went to every easy etude I can think of and just transpose in 12 keys as much as possible. but just focusing on, wind control and tongue. I also did, worked on kind of using the breath attack. Just get a faster response. But the funny thing about it is, this past year I developed 3 herniated discs, and I found out that, and also after watching Dave Monet's page of what he's been doing, the years of playing like this, or just out of alignment, actually affects a lot of the muscle. I had no idea. I had no idea that I had fallen into a lot of bad habits to make things work.
Man, I'm totally the same, man. I go back and like, I'll watch some videos or something that where I'm playing, and I'm looking at what I'm doing, and it's just like it just blows my mind, because I'm back and I'm leaning forward and I'm doing all sorts of crazy things.
Man, it shouldn't even be. I mean, honestly, man, it's like, even when I hold the horn in practice, like I've learned to just kind of hold the horn this way instead of here, or like even the pistol grip, I call it. Like literally, I've worked on. Like really just focus on as less pressure as possible while that wind is moving super fast. So I mean that helped me out as well. But all the extra movement and all that, it played a huge part in of some pretty bad mistakes and habits that just kind of shut me down. So. But like I said, from the beginning, man, like I try to do as much mouthpiece and free buzzing, and then get into, for me, if I'm working on choral stuff, I do all that stuff. But like the drone playing for me is kind of where it's at, because it allows me harmonic freedom. It allows me some rhythmic freedom. And you can also do your slurs over it. You can do your tonguing over it. It requires you to be up in this space way freer than you are when you're gridlocked on, looking at an exercise. Because when people play exercises, at least the students that have come across my plate, and folks that want to work with me, man, is that they play exactly that. They play the exercise. There's no musicality to it. And then when it comes time to apply that exercise to a musical phrase, they have a hard time connecting the two. So my goal is to always kind of be in this mental and spiritual kind of state of mind of flowing through any exercise I'm working on. So when I go play, it's just part of my playing. It's not separate.
Yeah, I dig that, man. You kind of briefly touched on mouthpiece for a sec. We had a question come in from Matt Letter. Are you a one mouthpiece for everything player? For example, I have one mouthpiece I primarily play all the time, but I do have a Trumpet cut mouthpiece if venue or situation calls for it, and a lead mouthpiece for when it calls for that. Some play one mouthpiece, others seem to have the right tool for the right job within reason. Keeping rims consistent. Man, I know we've had lots of gear discussions over the years, man. And
so
yeah, so
I'm sorry I had to get up. So yeah, this is my pouch, right? A Mount Vernon 1.5C, a 5C, a Bach 1.5C, and Monet's 1.5C. So I'm going to answer this question like this. I went through college in my earlier years thinking that I needed a shallow mouthpiece to play lead trumpet. And so I went to a 6A, 4A. Everybody knows what that is. And I messed my face up. Then I went to a Marcinkiewicz, messed my face up. I went to, you name it, I was trying it, right? Bobby Shuley, I did everything. And then after I went through all these changes in the face and embouchure rebuilding, I just stuck with one mouthpiece. I stayed on my 1.5. And then I went and got a lesson with Bijan Watson. All right. And if you don't know who Bijan is, you need to go check him out. He's a talented lead trumpet player. Dude's got a sound that just, you're sitting next to him, you're like, dang, really? You're supposed to be
I love Bijan, man. Oh, it's so killing.
So I went out to LA to hang out with the Clayton Hamilton Orchestra and, just see what they were doing, and got this lesson with Bijan. And I went in prepared. I prepared like all these lead pieces that I've been working on. Wanted to talk about this. I pulled up Jessica's Day, and he played one. I played maybe 4 or 5 bars, and we had about a 3-hour lesson on that. And it was just all about wind flow and all these things that I was like, okay, I think I got it. It wasn't even until a year or two later that it made sense. Like literally it started actually working. And I was infatuated with the fact that he played everything on this one big old cup. I was like, how the hell does he do that? And so, my lead playing got better, that's what I started doing. I just stayed with, so to answer this person's question, I usually play everything on my 1.5. And it depends. Now, if I'm playing lead and like this one mouthpiece doesn't give me the sizzle that I would like, right? Like it's okay. It's open, right? But if I put in, if I go to my 5, right, it slots a little differently. You can hear it. It's a little brighter. Everything's a little closer, and so I have to be mindful that if I'm going to be playing lead all night, I will most likely play on my 5C. If I'm just going to be playing, bouncing back and forth from whatever, I just keep my 1.5 in. I think you get into, unless you are practicing on each of those mouthpieces, you can get in a lot of trouble with different embouchure setups and things like that. I've noticed a lot of young players that go to the shallower mouthpieces, they hit the high notes for a while, and then they're like, this mouthpiece doesn't work. It doesn't work anymore. It's like, no, it works. And the honeymoon period's over, so, and he said he had a flumped mouthpiece. I know instead of bringing a flugelhorn, you use those really deep V cup. I had one of those too for a while. I just choose not to play flugelhorn anymore if I don't have to, but
amen.
He's like, amen. But I think in general, when you're talking about mouthpieces and equipping them, I think choose the, I looked at somebody like Snooky Young. Snooky Young, to me, honestly, one of the greatest trumpet players ever, because the dude played lead and soloed his butt off. And he didn't, as far as I know, and from the research I've done, I've never heard about him switching mouthpieces. This is what it is, and I think, some of the greatest players that I look up to who are a little older than me, man, they tend to just play that. This is their mouthpiece, is what they use. I was able to sit next to both Mike Williams and Frank Green, and both of those cats as lead players, man, had their thing. They put it in, and they played. Totally different lead trumpet players, but they had their one piece, and that was it. I would dare say, if you are switching a lot of equipment, mouthpieces, practice on them equally. Make sure you give each one of them time. You don't want to, the worst thing you can do is like, man, I played on my 1.5 all week long, and I got to go play lead with this big band for 2 hours, and I didn't touch the lead mouthpiece. You get there and you're just fracking notes and chipping, and then you feel bad about yourself, and you like, I hope they call me again. You don't want to go through all that crap, man. I think, doing what we do as trumpet players, we have to honestly, segment our practice, and journal it, man. Like, today I'm doing this, maybe I work on my lead piece 3 days a week. There are the 3 days I'm working on it, and I'm going to play etudes with it. Like the Conconi book is one of the dopest books, that Complete Vocalese, man, that's the book. Like, if you really want to work on your phrasing and your wind and your lead trumpet playing, play that book with your lead piece. You'll find out, where you're at. This trumpet wasn't made to play blues and jazz, man. It was made to play, trumpet was designed to play Sousa marches and and symphonic music, man. That's what it was designed to do. So you have to work on those, I think those basics. That's why the Arbenz book will be here when we're all dead and gone, because it is a staple in the playing.
Yeah, I couldn't agree more, man. Marcus, man, this has been really great, man. We're just approaching the hour.
Yeah, I know, man.
Man, where can people find you? What do you got going on?
Yeah.
What's happening?
What's happening? We're not working. No, I'm only kidding. I'm only kidding. What I'm working on right now, man, is I lead this band called the Trumpet Summit. We were in our 8th year residency at Andy's Jazz Club here in Chicago until we got shut down. We do have a record out called In Strike, We Keep Stepping, so you can find that on iTunes and all the streaming platforms. I also co-lead a band called the Chicago Soul Jazz Collective. We released our first record last year. We got a new record coming out this October. I just found out finally. We got a special guest on there, Raul Madone and Nicholas Payton, which I'm excited about. All original music written by saxophonist John Fournier. And then my own quintet is going into the studio in about 3 weeks to record my first solo record. So I'm looking forward to it. Finally going to do that. And other than that, man, I'm working on some of these ideas that I kind of shared today in ebook format on my website, which is marcuscarrollmusic.com. I'm a musical director at a school teaching inner city kids music. I've been there for 15 years now. And I'm currently working on about 3 or 4 different business ideas that are non-music related, because this time has showed me that although this is who I am, is part of who I am, there's other things also that I enjoy doing. So I'm kind of working on some other stuff too. But I'm loving this page. I love the folks that are on here. I might not be as vocal and active, but I'm watching and I'm learning. So I enjoy especially the folks that are really deep on the classical playing. It's really insightful, even for myself. So I appreciate you and Josh and everybody bringing this format to the table, because it's useful for pros, novice players, everybody. It's a great space. And I'm very appreciative and honored that you guys had me on today to kind of discuss some of the things that I do.
Man, thanks, Marcus. And you all got to go follow Marcus on Instagram. Marcus has like one of the best Instagram accounts and goes live all the time. Like I'm on your live streams all the time, and like they're the deepest live streams that anyone does, except for maybe Peyton. Peyton's live streams are like
man,
the best.
I love.
And that live stream that you guys did together like a couple weeks ago was like.
Yeah, man, we were on the phone together, man. I had called him. I mean, he's like, man, I've known him for 20 years now too, and it was funny because we got to talking on the phone. He's like, yo, bro, you want to go live? I was like, let's do it. And my friends here in town also they always poke fun of me about that. I said, the reason why I do it a lot is because I like the feedback. My skin is thick, man. If you don't like it, that's great. Tell me why you don't like it, and I'll listen. And if it's something that clicks with me, I'll work on that. And if it moves you, that's great too. I'm just that kind of a person, man. I feel like the journey of being a musician, a trumpet player, and an artist, it's a life journey. Watching Clark Terry at the end of his days, man, still trying to play on his deathbed, still trying to play, still loving the craft. I think we've been blessed to be cursed with this thing called the trumpet. Because it's an awesome instrument, man, and I enjoy sharing knowledge, but also love learning from other people. So that's why I do go.
And where can people find you on Instagram?
It's man, what's my handle? It's like MCM.
I don't know. I can never find. It's always like a struggle for me to find you on Instagram. It's MCM United or something like that.
No, it's MCM Unlimited. I believe that's what it is. ULTD.
There you go.
Yeah, but you can, yes, MCM_ULTD, or you can just type in Marcus Carroll. But that's where I'm at, man. I try to, post, some of the current projects we're doing, some of the video footage from the things that we do. If there's something in the vault, If there's a live lesson I'm going with, I like doing my lessons live so folks can kind of get to see what we're working on. One student in particular, I won't give his name because I don't want to be, rude, but his progress has been amazing to see over the last year. And he's coming along really nicely. He's putting in the work, and I learned from him just as much as he's learning from me. I think that's why this community is great too, man. You guys are kicking butt, so.
Thanks, man. Everyone, we've come to the hour mark. Warm-up Wednesday with Marcus Carroll. Killing, man.
Trying to finish some stuff, man.
Man, thank you for doing this. I'm so glad when I was in Chicago, I think I was probably about 6 months ago. I'm so glad we got to hang, man.
Finally.
I mean, we've been talking for years now.
Yeah.
And hopefully when all this, COVID madness is over, we can hang again, man.
I'm looking to try to get my Canadian citizenship, brother.
Hey, man. Well, I'm not sure it's much better up here. There's a few things that are better.
It might be just a little bit better.
A little.
No, but it was cool, man. We've had a great history together, and it's always good when you get to meet those that you connect with on these social media platforms. I was in Australia with Basie and got to meet a young kid, Faulkner is his last name, great trumpet player. We did a lesson in the hotel, and it was just cool because we had been following one another, and finally, face to face, you get to meet, these people, man. And I think that's such a wonderful thing, so next time we'll grow up somewhere else and do some playing.
Yeah, sounds good, man. Well, thanks everyone for tuning in for Warm-Up Wednesday with Marcus Carroll. Please visit our website, www.positivetrumpetersworldwide.com. On the homepage of the website, you can sign up for our mailing list. We send out 1 email a week that gives you the Zoom links for all the live streams we do and all the info on our live streams. So please visit our website and sign up for our mailing list. Tomorrow, we have another great live stream. It's also happening at noon. With Rich, who's from the UK, and he is going to be talking about the tongue-controlled embouchure. What is that? I don't know. Who knows? It's a mystery.
I'm tuning in for that. I want to see that. I want to check it out.
Yeah. All right. We'll see you later, man. Thanks again, Marcus.
Thanks, Troy. I'll be in touch, buddy. Thank you.
All right, man. See you guys later.
All right, now. All right. Thank you guys for checking that out. It's always this new format of how we communicate is via Zoom and whatnot is always kind of crazy. Robert, I did not see your note here, but you said, man, why the overtones got to be 1-3-5-7 instead of 1-3-5-8? It's not fair. I'm curious to what do you mean it's not fair? That's just one part of the exercise, though. I start. There's another one that if I can find it here, I doubt that I can though, because I think I put it away. There's a couple of other ones that I do where, literally starting on the 7th, trying to find different ways of like when you visually see a chord, right? The first thing that most of us do, and I think that we learn, is that we start on the root, but our ideas don't necessarily start on the root all the time. So so you try to find other ways of starting your lines, and then also finding harmonically other ways that you want to approach that. I hope that helps, man. I'm kind of not really understanding why the overtones go to 1-3-5-7. But yeah, thanks for tuning in. It was fun to kind of demonstrate with Troy, and what they're doing on their page is great. I'm currently working on a kind of my own personal methods of what I've been working on for the last umpteenth years. and that'll be coming out pretty soon. Hopefully in the next month or two. I'm still working through a lot of things and putting them together, but that'll be you can most likely get off my website, Amazon, and then also my social media accounts such as Facebook and Instagram. I have links for that. It can be in a PDF ebook format, so you can just download it. But you know, I was talking to Troy a little bit about sound. I didn't get too far deep into it, but you know, as I was telling him when I warm up, to have this sound, to me that's an okay sound. It's a little bit more focused. I'm gonna need that for, you know, when I go to the studio and go do, you know, need to play in a section. But when I'm playing other stuff, like that kind of a sound, that's my actual natural sound. So I have to kind of not necessarily manipulate, but move some things around in order to get a little bit more on the focus side. And that focus side is me bringing the lips, you know, actually the lips closer together in this pucker, and rolled to get a more cohesive, focused sound, as opposed to the sound that kind of gives you that warmth there. You know, just try to find that center of that warmth. And I think it has to, for me, it has to do with really allowing the lips to kind of be center, but more this way. The other way is here. The warmth of that fuzziness is here. The other one is more this way. It has to be a little bit more direct. All right. I hope that answers your questions. Thank you for that question, Robert. Man, and hope everybody is having a beautiful day. Thanks for tuning in. Uh, I will be back up here at some point. All right.